Welcome back to Mahjong 101. And today we're going to learn how to read the official National Mahjong League card. Most players say that learning how to read the card is the most intimidating part of playing Mahjong. I'm here to tell you that it might look intimidating at first, but once you learn the basics, it's going to be super easy. Believe me, I know exactly how you feel because that was me when I first started playing. I was like, what is this card? But before we begin, I do want to say if you have not seen my video on the different tiles of Mahjong, please go back and watch that because it'll make it a lot easier when we are learning the card. Before we get started, I do want to recommend a few places where you can find information about how to play the game, the rules, and that would be this American Mahjong book, How to Play the Game and Win by Elaine Sandberg. I really love this. I take it wherever I go when I'm playing. And also, the National Mahjong League itself has the official rule book here. So I also recommend getting the official rule book. And another great resource is, of course, the back of the card has a lot of the official National Mahjong League rules. Okay, let's dig in. So the first thing you're going to notice when you open your card is the card is separated into different sections. I like to call them neighborhoods. So we have the 2026 section, the 2468 section, any like numbers, quints, consecutive runs, 13579, wins and dragons, 369, and singles and pairs. So what I'm going to do for this video is just kind of give you the basics, and then I'm going to actually make a video for each of the sections so you can get a better idea. So just for an overview here, what you're going to see on the card is, of course, your sections. Each section heading tells you what to expect in that section. Now remember, the goal of Mahjong is to get 14 tiles that line up and match one of the hands on this card. So again, depending on what tiles you're dealt at the very beginning of the game is going to kind of determine which section you're going to go for. If you see numbers on the card, that's going to be talking about the numbered suits. So when you see twos or fours or sixes or threes or nines, that is asking for a numbered tile. Okay, and then it depends on what color it is for the suit. So if you have two colors, that means you need two suits. Three colors on the line is three suits. So for example, here in this quint section, there are three different sets here you need, and they're three different suits. Okay, and we'll talk more about that. If you see F's on the card, that stands for flower. So if you see three F's together, that means that you need three of these flowers together. If you see news on the card, so an NEWS, that's exactly what you would need. You would need an N, an E, a W, and an S for that hand. Some of them only call for east or west. If you see dragons on the card, so you see Ds, again, that's the dragon. And depending on what the parenthesis says will be which dragon you need. So for example, here it says any two suits. So it could be BAMs, BAMs and cracks, or cracks and dots. Any two suits with their matching dragons, and these numbers only. So the parentheses are going to tell you a lot. So if I'm doing twos and eights, let's say the twos are in dots, and let's say the eights are going to be in BAMs, I need to make sure that the dragons match those suits. So if I'm doing two dots, the two dots, I would have to have the white dragon. And if I'm doing eights with their dragons, let's say I'm doing 8 BAMs, well, the BAMs go with the green dragons. So they would have to be the matching dragons. But don't worry if this is a little confusing, because I'm going to be doing a video for each of the sections to break them down for you. Okay, so let's look at a section. So let's start with the 2468. Okay, what you're going to notice on the card is that the numbers are going to have three different colors. And the colors do not match a suit. So a lot of people get confused and they'll say, oh, green must mean I need those in my BAMs because that's green. And that is not true. The colors only mean how many suits you will need in that hand. So for example, in this 2468 line here, you see you need three twos, you need 3 fours, you need 4 sixes, and you need 4 eights. And we call those pungs and kongs. So you need that all in the same suit. So if you can get those 14 tiles all in the same suit, then that would be a mahjong. So it could be bams, it could be cracks, it could be dots. But let's look at the second part of the line. You could do your 2s and 4s in one suit because that's one color. And you could do your 6s and 8s in a different suit because that's a different color. And one really great thing about this card is that the parentheses tell you everything you need to know. So here for the 2, 4, 6, 8, the first line, it says any 1 or 2 suits. So that means if you're doing the 1 suit, you would work on this part of the line because that's 14 tiles. Or if you want to do the 2 suits, you would just do the second part of the line. You wouldn't do both lines because remember, you just need 14. So let's go ahead and build out the 2, 4, 6, 8, the first line here. So you can see what that would look like in real life. All right, so for this line, I'm going to need a pung of 2s. So I'm just going to choose cracks. So we got our 3 2s. And then we need a pung of 4s in the same suit. So there's our pung of 2s, our pung of 4s. Then we need a kong of 6s. So again, all in the same suit because on the card it's the same color. And then we need a kong of 8. Okay, so you'll see this is a mahjong for line 1 of the 2, 4, 6, 8 section. We have our 2s, our 4s, our 6s, and our 8s. And it looks like that. Now, let's say I didn't have all those, but I had some jokers. Could I use jokers in this line? Absolutely. You can use jokers in one of the sections like this. I mean, you could have all jokers. Let's say you don't have any of the 2s. It could be all the jokers, right? Because jokers can be in a pung, a kong, or higher. Jokers can never be in a single or a pair, which we'll talk about that another time. So anyways, 2, 4, 6, 8. Now this is a valid mahjong. Now, let's say you were going for the second part of the line where you need 2 suits. So what you could do is, let's say you have your 2s and 4s will be cracks. Your 6s and 8s, if you're going for that part, would have to be a second suit. So we can't have cracks here if we're going for that one. So we would have to pick something else. So let's say we pick our BAMs. And so we have 6s and 8s. Okay. Now that is a valid mahjong because again, we have the 2s and the 4s and cracks. We have the 6s and the 8s and BAMs. And again, you can substitute jokers in any part of this hand. I could do it like this, I could do here. So you wouldn't actually have to have the natural tiles for that hand as long as you have some jokers. So that is pretty much how you build a hand in Mahjong. I will go through each of these neighborhoods so we can kind of learn how to build those hands. One thing to note here is that if you see an X, that means that it is an exposure hand and you can call for tiles. So later when we talk about calling for a tile, which is where you say, oh, let's say the 4 was down and you need that 4 and you say, oh, I need that 4. You would pick that 4 up and you would expose it with the other 4s that you need for the hand. And then you would be locked in to that hand with the 4s. Now, there are some other places maybe that you would have 3 4s. So let's say you're going for this line that has 3 4s or this line that has 3 4s. But we'll talk about exposures another time. Right now, we're just going to focus on learning the card. So that is an overview of the card. In my next video, we're going to look at the 2026 section. So come back for that.